What happens when a black man tries to save a stranger in distress? A white woman's fear turns his act of kindness into a crime scene. You won't believe how his fight for justice shook the city. It all went down outside a supermarket, under a sun so fierce it felt like the asphalt was melting beneath my feet. I wasn't out to be a hero, just a guy grabbing groceries on a Tuesday afternoon, trying to keep my head above water in this city I've called home for 32 years. My name's Jamal, a black man who's spent his life believing in doing right, even when the world makes it hard. My mom raised me that way, help where you can, she'd say, because that's what holds us together. That day, helping someone didn't just cost me, it nearly broke me. The heat was brutal, the kind that makes your shirt cling like a second skin and your thoughts fuzzy. I was tossing my grocery bags into my car, already picturing the chicken I'd cook for dinner, when I saw her, a white woman, maybe in her 50s, stumbling near the store entrance. Her face was ghostly pale, her steps shaky, like the ground was betraying her. A couple of folks passed by, eyes glued to their phones, pretending she wasn't there. I couldn't. I'd seen this before, my uncle collapsing at a family barbecue, clutching his chest. I knew what this could be. I dropped my bags, the plastic crinkling against the pavement, and jogged over. "Ma'am, you okay?" I asked, keeping my voice soft but steady. She clutched her chest, gasping, her eyes wide with panic. "Dizzy," she mumbled, her voice barely a whisper. My gut screamed heart attack or heatstroke. I took her arm gently, just enough to keep her upright. "Let's get you to some shade. Can you walk?" She nodded, leaning into me, her weight heavy with fear. We shuffled toward a bench near the store, her breaths shallow and ragged. The bench was scorching from the sun, but it was all we had. I scanned the parking lot for help, a store employee, a passerby, anyone, but it was just us, surrounded by cars and indifference. "Stay with me," I said, my voice firm now. "I'm gonna call for help." I fumbled for my phone, dialed 911, and gave the operator the rundown: woman in distress, possible medical emergency, supermarket parking lot. The operator was calm, told me to stay put until the ambulance arrived. I grabbed a water bottle from my grocery bag, unscrewed the cap, and offered it to her. "Here, take a sip." Her hands trembled as she drank, a faint "thank you" escaping her lips. For a moment, I felt that spark of connection, like I was doing what Mom always taught me, being the glue in a fractured world. I thought, this is what it's about, helping someone, no questions asked. Then it all unraveled. Her eyes shifted, like a fog lifting. She looked at me, really looked at me, and her face hardened into something cold, suspicious. "Who are you?" she snapped, her voice no longer frail but sharp as a blade. "What do you want?" I froze, my hand still holding the water bottle. "Ma'am, I'm just helping." "You were about to collapse." But she wasn't listening. She yanked her purse close, clutching it like I was a thief ready to pounce. "Stay back," she said, loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. People were stopping now, their whispers buzzing like flies, sharp, accusing, relentless. I could feel their stares, heavy as lead, already writing a story that wasn't mine. I'd felt those eyes before, growing up in a neighborhood where cops patrolled like you were always one wrong move from trouble. "Ma'am, I called 911, I said, raising my hand slow and open, trying to defuse the tension. "They're coming to help you." That's when she lit the match. She fumbled for her phone, dialed, and said the words that cut deeper than any knife: "There's a man here. I think he's trying to rob me." Rob her? I just kept her from hitting the pavement. My heart pounded, a storm of disbelief and rage. "Lady, I'm helping you," I shouted, my voice cracking with the weight of it all. But the crowd was already sold on her story. I saw it in their eyes: fear, judgment, the same old script: black man, white woman, trouble. It was like I was back in high school, when a teacher accused me of stealing a textbook I'd paid for, no questions asked, just guilt assumed. The store manager hustled over, his face all business, his tie slightly crooked. "Sir, step back," he ordered, like I was the one causing the chaos. I wanted to scream, to tell them I was the one who'd called for help, but I knew how this looked. I'd seen it play out too many times, on the news, in my own life, in the stories my dad told me about keeping your head down to survive. Sirens wailed, slicing through the murmurs. 2 cop cars screeched into the lot, lights flashing like a warning. The woman was crying now, her sobs loud and theatrical, pointing at me like I was a monster. The cops didn't ask questions. One grabbed my arm, twisted it hard, and slammed me against my car's hood. The metal burned against my chest, the heat mirroring the fire in my veins. "You're under arrest," he barked, his grip like a vice. "For what?" I yelled, pain shooting through my shoulder as the cuffs snapped on, cold and unforgiving. I called 911 for her. They didn't care. The crowd watched, some shaking their heads, others nodding like they'd expected this all along. I caught the woman's eye as they dragged me to the squad car. For a split second, guilt flickered across her face, but she looked away, burying it under her fear. That moment burned into me, the betrayal, the weight of being reduced to a threat in my own city. At the station, I sat in a holding cell for hours, the fluorescent lights buzzing like my thoughts. The walls were gray, the air stale, and every second felt like a reminder of how little I mattered to the system. I kept replaying it, her fear, the crowd's silence, the cops' rough hands. I thought about my mom, how she'd cry if she saw me here, her son locked up for helping someone. I'd done everything right, and still, I was caged like I'd planned it all. The injustice was a weight I could feel in my bones, but I clung to one truth: I wasn't going to let this break me. Hours later, the cops checked the 911 records. My call was there, time-stamped before hers. The supermarket security footage showed me helping her, not threatening her. The evidence was undeniable, but the apology was weak. A mumbled "sorry for the mix-up," like that erased the hours in cuffs, the stares, the shame. I walked out of the station, the night air cool against my skin, but the fire inside me still burned. I went back to the supermarket the next day, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to take back what was mine, my dignity, my place in this world. The manager recognized me, his face flushed as he stammered an apology and offered a gift card. "I don't want your money," I said, my voice low but steady. "I want you to do better. Train your people. Make this right." Word spread like wildfire. By nightfall, the story was everywhere: social media, neighborhood chats, even a local news segment. Some called me a hero, others said I should have walked away. But the voices that mattered most were the ones who knew this pain: black men and women who'd been punished for existing, for helping, for breathing. A woman from my block stopped me, tears in her eyes, and said, "My brother went through the same thing. Thank you for speaking up." I posted a video online, raw and unfiltered, sitting in my living room with just my phone and my truth. "This is what happens when you try to do right," I said, my voice steady despite the anger. I helped a woman who needed it, and I got handcuffs for it. But I'm not done helping. And I'm not done fighting. The video exploded, tens of thousands of shares, comments pouring in, people sharing their own stories of being misjudged, dismissed, criminalized. It was like I'd opened a floodgate, and the stories kept coming, each one a reminder that I wasn't alone. A local activist group reached out, asked me to speak at a community meeting. I wasn't a public speaker, hell, I'm a mechanic, not a preacher, but I said yes. Standing before that crowd, I told them about the supermarket, the cuffs, the weight of being seen as a threat. But I also spoke of resilience, of my mom's lessons, of building a world where doing right doesn't cost you everything. I talked about the kids in the room, how they deserved better than the world we've got. The room erupted in applause, and for the first time, I felt like my voice could move mountains. The woman? I never saw her again. Word was she left town, too ashamed to face the fallout. I didn't need her apology. I needed change. Weeks later, the supermarket put up a sign, "We stand against discrimination." They started bias training for their staff, and I got a call from the police chief, promising to review their protocols. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. My old high school reached out, asked me to talk to the students about standing up to injustice. I walked into that auditorium, saw those young faces, black, white, Latino, Asian, and I told them, you don't have to wait for permission to do what's right. But you do have to be ready to fight for it. Now, when I walk through that parking lot, people nod, not with pity, but with respect. I'm still Jamal, still the guy who'll stop to help a stranger, still the mechanic who loves his mom's cooking. But I'm also the guy who won't stay quiet, who won't let the world define him. Because justice? It's not given. It's earned. And sometimes, you have to fight for it, one step, one story, one truth at a time.